I moved 2 years ago from Germany to Nairobi in Kenya, and since then I've got to know the local culture quite well. I know what to do, what not to do, where to move around and where not to move around. And let me just give you the lessons I've learned that I wish someone would have taught me earlier, just to make things easier for your first trip to Nairobi. Then let's start off with the point safety. I think Nairobi and Kenya in general is quite safe. I've been based here in Nairobi for the past 2 years and nothing ever happened to me, even if I walk around at night, even if I walk in certain areas where people in the beginning taught me not to walk around. And I think it's just a matter of getting to know the places, and whenever you know where to move and where not to move, you can feel comfortable as well in the areas where people tell you not to move around. Of course, something can happen to you like in any other major city, like if you're in the States, if you're in Germany, if you're in any other country in the world, things can happen. Therefore, I'm just saying you shouldn't be reckless and like just holding your phone out and like wearing all these kinds of jewelries here and everything. But in the end of the day, most of the people here in Kenya are very friendly and they are just very welcoming. And therefore, I also feel like a bit safer than in the States, where also gun violence is a bigger problem than here in Kenya. And here, I think most of the people, they just will do something or like steal your phone, like smaller things than, let's say, compared to the States or like some other European countries. And what also might be a bit confusing for you is that all apartment buildings, every building you will enter has first off electrical fences, most of them at least. And they also have 24-hour securities in every single apartment building and every single mall you go through. So you always have to drop your belongings when you go into the mall. They will check you and they would just make it sure that everything is safe. And even if you visit someone here in a private complex, you still have to give them your ID, you still have to give them your phone number, just that you can identify yourself and that they know who you are in case of anything happens. Of course, things can happen, but most of the time I think it's more a preventional method than anything else. And what's quite funny about this, when I came here first, people told me that I should be very, very careful with my belongings, that I should be very, very careful with like where I walk around, where I move around. And I think in the beginning I was trusting them a lot and I was very like conscious of my environment, and I still am, but I think I'm more on autopilot now because I know what to look at and what not to. But also Nairobi used to have the name Nairobi, and this is something I just see when I hear some of the stories that people tell me about, but I haven't witnessed this myself, so I wouldn't consider Nairobi as a very dangerous city. Just be conscious of your environment, just be conscious of the things you do, where you hang out, and then I think everything will be alright for you. The next thing I want to touch base on is driving here in Nairobi. And if you have never driven in a country outside of Europe or the US before, where everything is not that structured like we know it, it might be like an extreme sport for you, because drivers here are like a little bit more reckless than we are in the Western countries. They have less rules. They overtake from every side that you can. You also drive on the left-hand side, so if you're from the UK, you're used to it, but from the States or from other countries in Europe, it might be also a bit confusing. Then you have a bunch of people like crossing the roads at all times. So you just need to be a bit more conscious. And then especially be conscious about the matatus. The matatus are the buses that drive around here. But even the locals fear the buses, is at least what they told me, because they are the ones that actually follow no rules. They will overtake you from any side. They will be sticking to the back of your car very closely just to overtake you at some point. So just be a bit conscious when driving here. Be a little bit more passive and be a little bit more defensive than like going too much into it, because otherwise it can be a bit dangerous for you as well. But I think once you get used to it, I've been driving here for a long time now. For me, it's quite normal now to drive, and I even adapted to the culture, and I'm also driving in a similar way. And another thing you want to do then is just avoid the rush hour times, because rush hour here can get you stuck for a couple of hours longer than your normal drive would take. Because let's say from 7:30 or maybe a bit earlier or a bit later, something around that, to 9 a.m. it will be very, very busy, and you just get stuck. That it's just a big waste of time. And especially if you're on a trip, if you're on vacation, whatever reason you're for here in Nairobi, you should avoid this. And the same thing occurs in the evening rush hour. So I would say it's around like 4:30 to 6:30, almost 7 p.m. And from there on, the streets are almost empty again. What I try to do is always to schedule my meetings and schedule everything around these times, so that I just don't have to waste the time getting stuck in traffic and just waiting there for an hour or 2 hours just to get to my destination. It will save you a lot of headache, it will save you a lot of time, and I think is one of the most important things when you're driving here as well. Another thing, what I encountered already when I was in Uganda, but now the more time I spent here, the more I realized this as well, that traffic lights are basically just a suggestion. Because here, the traffic lights operate, they work, and sometimes people, what I'm wondering, sometimes they stop when they see a red traffic light, but most of the time they are just passing it. The thing for you as a tourist, also what happens to me quite a few times, when I just do the same thing as they do and just pass the red traffic light. And if you're unlucky and there's a police officer standing right behind there, they will just take you out and they want something for you for making the mistake that everybody else did. They will just try to take advantage of it. So just be aware of this, just for your information. They're trying to take advantage of you making any single mistake here. So then the next thing I think is very important, to be honest, at least personally for me, and also to move and navigate the locals a bit better and like get to know the places, get to know the local culture and like move around a bit better, is learning a little bit of Swahili. Because when I came here first, the first things you learn in Swahili is jambo, what means something like hello. You also might know hakuna matata, what means something like no problem. But these two words would just tell everybody, especially if you don't look like you're from here, they will tell them that you are a visitor and don't know the language very well. The very first time I came here, I tried to pick up from the locals. I was asking them some words, but I didn't learn much. And the second time I came to make my move, beforehand I started to learn with Duolingo. They offer also Swahili, so that you at least speak the very, very few basics, that you can at least have the very basic conversations and say hello in Swahili, that you can ask them how they are. So it can be, even if you just know the words niaje or kuaje, or you can answer like these questions with like poa, mzuri sana, what means just I'm good, I'm very fine, everything is good. This will help you a lot already. And even if you want to go into the local markets, you want to bargain, and if they see you're a foreigner, and if it would also be much easier for them to give you the price that is like 3 times, 4 times, 5 times even higher sometimes, until they see that you also speak the local language. At least it helps me a lot when I start the conversation with like a word in Swahili. I can also ask for the price in Swahili, or if they have some certain kinds of products in Swahili. And then from there, they already understand that I've been here at least for a long time, and also might think that I'm from the coast. What helps me a lot to navigate the local culture and like just get better prices, better deals. But this is not the only reason. I also think it's quite important as well to know the local language at least a little bit, that you can show some respect to the people. Because I think if you travel somewhere and you're in a foreign country, even if everybody here in Kenya speaks English, or like most people in Nairobi at least speak English, and the further you leave Nairobi, the more you will see that it's quite important also to speak some Swahili at least. Because sometimes you will have encounters with people that don't speak English at all or speak barely English. So if you at least know a little bit of the language, they're also very, very much happy that you as a foreigner or you as a traveler are making the effort to learn the language and like to be closer to them, as if you just try to speak English and don't know how to converse with them. Something I wish I would have known in the first time I came here, but now I know. Now I gave a lot of effort into learning when I came here first, so that I know the basics, and now I want to go even further, that I speak the language much more fluently than I do now. There's something else that also impressed me quite a lot, and it's that you don't need to carry around any cash at all with you. Because here in Kenya you can use a mobile banking system that's called M-PESA, and with M-PESA you can basically make every single transaction you will have to make just by using your phone. And for this you only have to go to Safaricom, register your phone number, get your SIM card, and then they can activate M-PESA for you, and you don't need to worry about carrying cash and picking cash from the ATM. You can just go ahead and send some money from your personal foreign bank account to M-PESA, and you can just go ahead and pay everything with that. I think that's something very, very futuristic as well. And in the beginning, I was always trying to pick up my cash. It was quite expensive for me because you always have these bank fees. And I think it's also much safer because you don't need to carry around any cash at all. And so there might be less attempts of like someone harassing you or whatever could happen if you like have stacks of cash in your pockets. And this makes also things much simpler because you have your bank account always with you on your phone, and you can just make every transaction wherever you go. And just to tell you how useful M-PESA actually is, in the last 2 years since I've been here, I maybe carried cash with me 2 times in these 2 years. And it was just because I had some cash with me that I wanted to change. And afterwards, I never picked up any cash anymore because I can just pay everything either with my bank card or with M-PESA. So it makes it very convenient. And it shows as well that Kenya is very far developed if I compare to places I've been to in other countries in the world, especially as well in Germany, where you oftentimes have to carry around cash with you just to make transactions that people don't want to accept your card for. So it's very impressive that Kenya is already this far, and I'm really, really looking forward to see what else Kenya can be doing in the future. And then to get to the next point, I think what you should know if you come to Kenya for the first time, most of the time people would just land in Nairobi and spend their time here in Nairobi as well. Maybe they go to the coast, to Mombasa or to Diani, and that's simply it. And this is also how I spent my first time here. But I also came with the vision of doing business here in Kenya, so I was doing my research, and mainly for this I wanted to be in Nairobi. And then from here we drove all the way to Mombasa by road, what is also a very exciting experience. but also a very dangerous one. But to get back to the point, if you have more time and you are here for your travel and you don't have any necessity for you to stay in Nairobi over the whole time of your trip, you should definitely explore different cities, because here's so much beauty outside of Nairobi. If you can just go and drive an hour, 2-3 hours outside of the city, you will see so much beauty, so much nature, and there are quite a lot of things I love to travel to. For instance, you can go to Naivasha and you have a beautiful lake there, and you also have the Hell's Gate there, for instance, where you can just take your bicycle and do a safari with your bicycle through wild animals. You have also Nakuru, you have Kisumu, where you can also do quite a lot of things. You have a bunch of beautiful cities in the north. You can go basically all over the country and you will see so much beauty. So this is just something I wish I would have known earlier, but I also didn't have much time when I came here for the first time. I was just here for 2 weeks. I was mainly here for the purpose of doing business, so I had to spend most of my time here in Nairobi. But if you bring time with you, you should figure out and make your research what places you're actually into, because Kenya also has a lot of history and there's a lot of beauty in nature here. So it's just so fascinating how many things you can visit here in Kenya. And I think even after being here for 2 years, I still have not seen nearly everything that I wanted to see here. So there's endless to do for me, and I hope the next time or the first time you come to Kenya and take this trip, that you also spend time outside of Nairobi, outside of Mombasa, and outside of Diani, and just start exploring the whole country and see how beautiful it actually is. So now drop down below in the comments what you experienced are when you were the first time in Kenya, and let me know how it went, and maybe you have some different advice that I haven't thought of that will help other people that come here for the very first time and to make their trip just much more enjoyable. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.